First Contact and Ultimatum. The massive Nexar warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their obsidian hulls absorbing starlight like hungry shadows. High Admiral Varric stood on the bridge of the flagship Evening Storm, his silver-scaled hands clasped behind his back as he observed the blue-green planet before him. Earth, the latest target of the Nexar Empire's relentless expansion. 5,000 warships deployed. High Admiral, reported Commander Thex, her scales shifting to a deeper shade of gray in anticipation. The humans have no orbital defenses, minimal space presence, and their primitive detection systems are only now registering our arrival. Varric's mouth curved into what his species considered a smile. The humans' response time was embarrassingly slow. Their most advanced satellites were barely more sophisticated than children's toys by Nexar standards. This conquest would be swift, another jewel in the Empire's crown. Open communications on all frequencies, Varric commanded. Let's give them their options. But when the main view screen flickered to life, Varric felt his scales ripple with unease. Instead of panic-stricken human leaders or frightened military commanders, he saw a single woman sitting at a simple wooden desk. She appeared to be in her late 50s by human standards, wearing casual clothing and reading from a paper book. She marked her page, set the book down, and looked up at the camera with an expression that could only be described as mild amusement. "High Admiral Varric, I presume," she said, her voice carrying no trace of fear. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's ambassador for extraterrestrial affairs. We've been expecting you." Varric's tail twitched in irritation. "You've been expecting us?" "Oh yes," Dr. Chen replied, picking up a tablet from her desk. "Your invasion fleet matches our predictions almost exactly, though you're running about 6 minutes behind schedule. Solar winds in the Oort cloud, I assume." The bridge fell silent. Commander Thex's scales had shifted to the pale gray of uncertainty. "How dare you mock the might of the Nexar Empire?" Varric snarled. "Your primitive world stands defenseless before us. Surrender now, and we will be merciful. Resist, and we will reduce your cities to ash." Dr. Chen sighed and set down her tablet. "High Admiral, we've been watching your empire expand for the past 50 years. We've studied your tactics, your technology, your social structures. We chose not to interfere because, frankly, you weren't ready yet." "Ready?" Varric spat the word. "Ready for what?" "For this moment. For the realization that everything you think you know about humanity, about Earth, about the very nature of space and time." She smiled, and for the first time, Varric felt a chill run down his spine. "Well, let's just say it's about to change." The hidden edge. The first sign that something was wrong came when Commander Thex couldn't get her scanning systems to focus properly on Earth's surface. The readings kept shifting, as if the planet's geography was constantly rearranging itself. "High Admiral," she called out, her scales now a mottled pattern of confusion and concern. "Our sensors are detecting anomalies. The humans appear to have no significant military installations. And yet what, Commander?" Varric demanded. "The space around Earth seems to be folded, sir, like layers of fabric overlapping. Our readings suggest the planet is simultaneously where we see it and elsewhere." Dr. Chen's image still filled the main view screen, her calm demeanor unchanged. "Having trouble with your scans, High Admiral? Don't worry. That's perfectly normal. Most species find our quantum architecture rather confusing at first." Varric slammed his fist on his command console. "Enough games. You have one planetary rotation to surrender, or we begin our assault." "Actually," Dr. Chen said, checking her watch, "I believe you'll be receiving some visitors right about now." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the evening storm. "Sir," Commander Thex's voice cracked with disbelief. "Human life signs detected on board. They're everywhere, in every ship of the fleet." Before Varric could respond, 2 humans simply walked onto his bridge. Not through the doors. They just appeared, as if they'd always been there. One was a young woman in what looked like casual workout clothes, the other an elderly man in a gardening hat. "Hope you don't mind us dropping in," the young woman said cheerfully. "I'm Dr. Jessica Martinez, Quantum Engineering. This is my colleague, Mr. Wu. He's mostly retired, but he still consults on our more interesting projects." Mr. Wu tipped his hat to the stunned Nexer crew. "Your ships are quite impressive," he said, walking over to examine a control panel. "Very efficient use of conventional spacetime, though your quantum shielding could use some work." How did you get here?" Verix demanded, his tail thrashing in agitation. "Our shields are impenetrable." "Oh, we didn't go through your shields," Dr. Martinez explained, pulling out what looked like an ancient human smartphone. "We simply adjusted the quantum probability state of this section of your ship to one where we were already here. It's really quite basic stuff. We teach it to high school students these days." On the view screen, Dr. Chen cleared her throat. "Hi, Admiral. I believe now would be a good time for that discussion about humanity's place in the galaxy. Would you prefer to continue this conversation on Earth? We have excellent coffee." Verix looked around his bridge, where similar scenes were playing out on every view screen. Humans had appeared throughout his fleet, casually chatting with his crew, examining their technology, even offering snacks they'd apparently brought along. His mighty invasion force had been penetrated without a single shot being fired. What are you people?" he whispered. Mr. Wu looked up from the control panel he'd been studying. "Oh, we're just humans," he said with a grandfatherly smile. "We just happened to take a different path than most species. While everyone else was focusing on bigger ships and stronger weapons, we started exploring the quantum nature of reality itself. Turns out space and time are much more flexible than most people think. And much more interesting," Dr. Martinez added, still tapping on her phone. "By the way, we've taken the liberty of quantum locking your weapon systems. Don't worry, it's completely reversible. We just thought it would make our conversation more productive if we removed any temptation for hasty actions." Tables turned. High Admiral Verix found himself sitting in what appeared to be a normal Earth conference room, though his scientific training told him this was impossible. Through the windows, he could see both his fleet in orbit and the streets of a human city below, simultaneously. The cognitive dissonance was giving him a headache. "More tea?" Dr. Chen offered, seemingly oblivious to the impossible physics surrounding them. Around the large oval table sat several other humans, including Dr. Martinez and Mr. Wu, along with Commander Thex, who had insisted on accompanying her admiral. "I don't understand," Verix said, his scales shifting through patterns of confusion and frustration. "If you possess such power, why hide it? Why allow the Empire to expand unchecked for so long?" Dr. Martinez set down her tablet. "Tell me, Admiral, what happens when you introduce advanced technology to a society that isn't ready for it?" "Chaos," Commander Thex answered before Verix could speak. "Cultural collapse. We've seen it happen on worlds we've conquered." "Exactly," Mr. Wu nodded, adjusting his gardening hat. "We've been watching, learning, and occasionally nudging things in a better direction. Those colonies that mysteriously became unprofitable for the Empire to maintain. The patrol ships that reported random navigation errors, all part of a gradual process. You've been manipulating us." Verix's tail lashed in anger. "We prefer to think of it as helping you grow at your own pace," Dr. Chen corrected gently. "Today's demonstration was necessary because you were finally ready to understand what you're actually dealing with." As if to emphasize her point, the room briefly shifted, and they were suddenly viewing the scene from outside, watching themselves have the same conversation while floating in space, without suits or ships, perfectly comfortable in the vacuum. "Reality," Dr. Martinez explained, noting Verix's shocked expression, "is far more malleable than most species realize. What you call space travel, we view as rather primitive. Why build massive ships to move through space when you can simply adjust the quantum properties of space itself? But your planet, Commander Thex interjected, her scientific curiosity overtaking her fear. When we scanned it, you saw what we wanted you to see. Mr. Wu smiled. Earth exists in what we call a quantum superposition. It's simultaneously where you think it is, and elsewhere. Actually, elsewhere isn't quite accurate, since we've moved beyond simple spatial relationships. But it's close enough for now. Varric slumped in his chair, his proud bearing crumbling as the implications sank in. Our weapons, our shields, our entire military doctrine, it's all useless against this. Not useless, Dr. Chen corrected. Just misdirected. Which brings us to why we invited you here today. We have a proposal for the Nexar Empire. Understanding. A proposal? Varric repeated, his scales now showing the pale gray of uncertainty. The conference room had settled back into its normal configuration, though he noticed small quantum fluctuations at the edges of his vision. Constant reminders of humanity's incomprehensible power. Dr. Chen nodded, sliding a simple paper folder across the table. We want to help the Nexar Empire evolve beyond conquest. Your people have achieved remarkable things, Admiral. Your engineering is impressive, your social organization is efficient, and your species has a genuine talent for unifying diverse worlds, even if your methods have been somewhat aggressive. What you're seeing here, Dr. Martinez added, creating a holographic display with her phone, is just the beginning of what's possible when you understand the quantum nature of reality. The display showed impossible structures, cities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, ships that traveled without moving. Mr. Wu stood and walked to the window, which now showed a view of Earth's sunrise from multiple angles at once. We've spent generations learning to manipulate the fabric of space-time, but we've also learned something far more important, the responsibility that comes with such power. Commander Thex, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. The lost patrol ships, the failed colonies. You weren't just watching us, were you? You were testing us, seeing how we would react. Very good, Commander. Dr. Chen smiled. Those situations were carefully crafted to encourage your empire to consider alternative approaches. The colonies that succeeded were those where your governors chose cooperation over domination. The patrol ships that returned safely were those that chose to help stranded vessels instead of ignoring them. We've been gently nudging your society toward a more cooperative model, Dr. Martinez explained, and you've made remarkable progress. That's why we finally revealed ourselves. You're ready for the next step. Varric opened the folder, finding detailed plans for what appeared to be a complete restructuring of the Nexar Empire. You want us to voluntarily give up our military supremacy? No, Dr. Chen corrected. We want you to transform it. Your fleet could become the greatest peacekeeping and exploration force the galaxy has ever seen. Your empire could transition from conquerors to teachers, from oppressors to protectors. Mr. Wu turned from the window. And in return, we'll teach you, not just about quantum engineering, but about all the technologies we've developed. Knowledge that could transform every world in your empire, end scarcity, eliminate disease, extend lifespans. But why? Varric demanded. Why offer this instead of simply destroying us or forcing us to submit? Because that's not who we are, Dr. Chen said simply. Humanity learned long ago that true power isn't about domination. It's about elevation. We don't want subjects or servants. We want partners. New horizons. 6 months after the failed invasion of Earth, High Admiral Varric stood on the observation deck of the Evening Storm, watching as a new type of ship took shape in the construction yards orbiting Nexar Prime. Unlike the sharp, aggressive lines of traditional Nexar warships, this vessel was elegant, its pearlescent hull seeming to exist in multiple states at once, a visible symbol of the changes sweeping through the Empire. The quantum integration is proceeding ahead of schedule, Commander Thex reported, her scales showing the bright patterns of excitement that had become common among the Nexer scientists working with human teachers. Dr. Martins says we'll be ready for the first dimensional fold test next week. And the crew training? Verix asked, though he already knew the answer. The changes in his people over the past months had been nothing short of remarkable. Exceeding expectations, the humans' teaching methods are unconventional, but effective. Our officers are learning to think in entirely new ways. She paused, checking her tablet, now upgraded with quantum computing technology. The first group of Nexer students will begin advanced studies on Earth next month. Verix nodded, remembering his own shock when he'd first visited a human university. The casual way they manipulated reality itself, their children playing with concepts that had been beyond his civilization's greatest scientists, it had been humbling. And yet, they never showed arrogance, never lorded their power over others. Their patience and genuine desire to help others advance was perhaps even more impressive than their technology. Message from Earth, Admiral, his communications officer announced. The main screen activated, showing Dr. Chen's familiar face. Admiral Verix, she smiled. I trust the reconstruction is progressing well. Better than we could have imagined, he replied honestly. The former colony worlds are enthusiastically embracing the new technologies, especially the medical advances. Worlds that once feared us are now asking to join the Commonwealth. The Nexer Commonwealth, the new name for the transformed empire, had been chosen by popular vote, another concept that would have been unthinkable just months ago. Excellent. Dr. Chen nodded. And how are you finding your new role? Verix's scales shifted to show thoughtful contentment. His fleet, once the spearhead of conquest, now led humanitarian missions, scientific expeditions, and peaceful first contact operations. They had already helped 3 pre-spaceflight civilizations avoid environmental disasters that would have destroyed them. It's satisfying, he admitted. Different than conquest, but deeply rewarding. Though I must ask, why are you humans so insistent on staying in the background? Your representatives keep declining official positions in the Commonwealth Council. Dr. Chen's smile widened slightly. We believe every civilization must find its own path, Admiral. We're happy to teach, to guide, to help, but not to rule. The Nexer people have shown remarkable capacity for growth and change. The galaxy needs your unique perspective and abilities. And what about the threats out there? Verix asked. Our long-range scouts have detected several aggressive species beyond the Commonwealth's borders. That's precisely why we chose to reveal ourselves to you first, Dr. Chen replied. Your people understand both conflict and peace. You know the value of strength and the importance of restraint. As you advance in your understanding of quantum science, you'll be perfectly positioned to help guide other civilizations through the same transition you've experienced. The view screen shifted, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Hundreds of worlds glowed with the quantum signature of human technology, while thousands more showed the potential for advancement. This was never about conquering or being conquered, Admiral, Dr. Chen continued. It was about finding the right partners to help guide the galaxy toward a better future. Humanity may have discovered these technologies first, but we've always known we couldn't shepherd the galaxy's development alone. We needed allies who understood both the responsibilities and the challenges of power. Verix watched as the quantum shipyard activated, the new vessel's hull shimming with possibilities. In its surface, he could see reflections of countless potential futures, all of them brighter than he could have imagined 6 months ago. The real question, Admiral, Dr. Chen said, her image overlaying the galactic map, is what we'll discover together, now that we're finally ready to explore the true nature of reality as partners. Verix's scales shifted to show the pattern for optimism as he watched his crew, human teachers, and Nexer scientists working together on the bridge. I believe, Dr. Chen, that we're about to find out.